Hello everyone. I am Alice of KHR Arts and Cloud Orchid Publishing, and today we are going to talk about working as an author and especially working at conventions as someone with chronic illness. To begin with, I suffer from fibromyalgia, migraines, arthritis in my hands and wrists, a severe joint problem called joint laxity, and hip dysplasia. What all of this amounts to is that there are days where it's pretty miserable to be me. If the weather is not quite right, if I have been too physical that day, or for no reason at all, my whole body can be in a severe amount of pain. Or some days I'll have accidentally injured one of my joints, or overused one of my joints, or overextended it, etc., and cause a lot of specific pain to that one area. And sometimes my body just likes to give up on me. All of this is really difficult to deal with. On top of my new heart condition, I have arrhythmia, which is managed with medication. So all of this amounts to that oftentimes I'm sore, I have mobility issues, and I'm very tired all the time. It's rough, but I do the best that I can with it. And that also means that I have to work harder and work smarter. Now, I know what y'all may be thinking. Being an author can't be that physically demanding now, can it? Well, yes and no. Actually, sitting here and working on my writing as an author is not all that physically demanding. But unfortunately, there are days where my hands just won't work. And that's why y'all have probably noticed in these videos, I wear these compression gloves. So they are like the official gamer gloves. They are copper wire infused. And what they do is they squish my hands to help with the circulation, and I don't know what sorcery it is, but it honestly helps make my hands feel better when I wear them, which is why I wear them pretty much all day, every day. So in terms of sitting here and typing on the keyboard all day, it really does help with that. The active part of being an author, of course, is participating in events and conventions, and that is a very physical activity in that it is a ton of physical work to do, packing up the car to go to the event, packing everything into the dealer's hall from the car, setting up the booth, and then having to do load out, which is where you then take the booth apart, load everything up into your car, and then drive home, and then take everything out of the car and put everything back where it was. That is a huge amount of effort, and I frequently say this while I'm doing all of those activities is, be an author, they said. Be fun, they said. Lugging around all of those books is exhausting, and it is horrendous on my joints, y'all. I literally have to lift these boxes that have 50 to 100 pounds worth of books in them, and I'm not even exaggerating with that weight. Those boxes are heavy, y'all. And thankfully, I do have a hand cart, which makes it a lot easier in terms of schlepping that stuff to and from the car and to the booth and wherever else they need to be. But at the same time, I still have to schlep those things out of my house, load them up into my car, etc. It is a lot of lifting. It is a lot of schlepping. It's a lot of physical effort. And then in terms of actually setting up the booth itself is a lot of physical effort. It's unpacking my tables if tables are not provided and getting them all set up, setting up all of the books and tablecloths and decorations and display racks and everything, making everything pretty. And then, of course, the biggest part that a lot of people don't think about is sitting and standing there all day at the booth. That lack of movement and locking your body into that position all day is exhausting, and it makes my joints incredibly stiff and sore, which makes my mobility for that evening pretty much nil. As I said in my previous video, at WorldCon, it got to the point where I had zero mobility, where I could not physically walk, and Neil had to carry me at the end of some of the nights because my mobility was so bad. Other times it's I'm walking around like an 80-year-old woman, and it's frustrating and it's embarrassing. Something that I've been working on these past few years with dealing with my increasing mobility issues, with the increasing severity of my fibromyalgia and my joint injuries, is forcing myself to have more rest and to do more reparative activities. So, what that means is that frequently throughout the week, I will take a nap in the middle of the day. Sometimes it's only about a half an hour, sometimes it's an hour. And on my really bad days, y'all, sometimes I will pass out for anywhere from 2 to 5 hours. It's really, really bad and it sucks. And there isn't a whole lot that I can do about it, unfortunately. In addition to that, it also means working harder to ensure that I get a full 8 hours of sleep every night. I know that sounds like Captain Obvious, but it is a lot harder than you think, especially with the fact that I have an official big people day job now. I have all of my other freelance work and gigs that I do, and then on top of it, being a writer and an artist and a Twitch live streamer, and then, oh yeah, I do photo shoots sometimes. That's a lot. That's a lot of hours in my daily life. That's a lot of stuff to cram into my daily life, and having to organize all of that, and then not falling into the temptation of, I could just sleep less, or I could just stay up all night to get more things done, and to have to deny that siren call of getting more things done and not sleeping is hard. Having to actually set boundaries for myself of, this is when bedtime has to be, so that then we have to wake up at this time o'clock and actually be a functional human being, is hard. But it's something that I feel like I've been making really good progress on these past couple years, and it's something that I still have to work at. And I admit, the week before Worldcon, of course, at actual Worldcon, there was really no sleeping happening. And then the week after Worldcon, not a whole lot of sleeping going on. There were a lot of nights that I sacrificed sleep in the name of getting things done for that convention. I'm not proud of it. The results were definitely, you did this to yourself. But in the grand scheme of things, it kind of needed to be done. But again, it's not every day that I go do something like Worldcon. And having those exceptions is not the best, but it's still, quote unquote, okay. And I did it. But should I do that in my daily life like I used to? Absolutely not. Especially with my heart condition now, I can't afford to have that kind of schedule anymore. So making time for sleep and taking naps during the day and trying to avoid the flat out just pass out for the rest of the day naps is a big part of my life living with this kind of chronic illness. The next thing that I have to worry about is doing reparative work. And what that means is doing things like taking the time to, I own one of those fancy massage guns that you see a lot of athletes using nowadays. I regularly use one of those on myself, on especially my shoulders and my back and my hips. And it actually does help a lot with keeping circulation going, with helping just with the general pain in my joints and things like that. I also try to regularly make time to have bubble baths. I know that sounds super bougie, but they are definitely more for restorative purposes than fun purposes. Although they are fun, I won't lie, they are very fun. But I use medicated bubble bath. It is infused with lavender and other goodness that's specifically for joint pain. And then on top of it, I also use lavender Epsom salt. So that combined really helps with managing my pain. And it also really helps with loosening up my joints when they get really stiff. And of course, because we're already having a medicated bubble bath anyway, what difference is it if we also enjoy a glass of wine and read a book or watch some fun videos on our phone while we do that? So it is definitely a fun form of self-care, but it does have very important restorative medical benefits behind it. The next thing that also sounds rather obvious, but working as an author and also all of the other 8 million things that I do on a daily basis, it's hard to fit it in there, is exercise. So I do have a pedaler under my desk, so it's kind of like the pedals of an exercise bike. under my desk, and I do have a distance goal that I attempt to match every day on that little peddler to make sure that I am getting movement, and most importantly that I am engaging my hips in order to keep them from getting too stiff. And at the same time, I have to manage how hard I work to meet that goal each day. That, like today, I'm having a bad joint day, so we're not worrying about whether I meet my goal for the day. It's more so I'm just making sure, am I regularly working on my peddler and not just sitting here not moving at all. I also have other exercises such as 10 minutes of yoga, and I have little arm exercises that I do with some little 5-pound weights. And on my very good days, I also try to get on my elliptical and get some good cardio in on there too. And while yes, a part of this is for weight loss because I have gained weight during the pandemic, specifically due to medical reasons with all of the changes in my medications. But it's more importantly to keep my body active, which helps keep my joints with better mobility. And it also keeps my heart in better shape. And considering the state of things with my heart, it needs all the help that it can get. So cardio and general exercise is very important. And I know there are articles out there that say sitting is the new smoking, and that honestly just being sedentary and just sitting around in one place all day is not very good for you. And unfortunately, due to the nature of the different types of work that I do spend about 10 to 12 hours a day parked right here in this chair at this desk. Whether I'm typing, working on videos, or live streaming, or whatever have you, I spend a lot of my time parked in this chair. So making those different exercises a part of my daily routine is really important to managing my chronic illness, as well as just keeping myself healthy in general. Lastly, there is the mental aspect of it. Now, I know that might seem a little bit at odds with the fact that my chronic illnesses are very physical illnesses. However, I do suffer from depression and anxiety, and those things do tie into my physical problems. And being able to better manage my mental health means that I'm more likely to have an easier physical health day. It's a lot easier to deal with joint pain if you're not also at the same time having an anxiety attack or dealing with a depression spiral. Dealing with those things individually is difficult enough. Dealing with them at the same time is a nightmare. So a big part of keeping up with my physical health and dealing with my chronic illness is also keeping up with my mental health. So I have a lot of things that I do in order to keep those things in check, which honestly have a lot of overlap with my chronic illness, such as making sure I get 8 hours of sleep a night, making sure I have 3 square meals a day, making sure that I'm not burning myself out with doing too much each day, and learning to say, you know what? We've done enough for today. Let's do something to relax or have fun, or even just do nothing at all. And also doing things such as going to therapy and making sure that I am not sabotaging my mental health. There's articles on that. It's a whole thing. It's basically where you know things that trigger your anxiety or trigger your depression, and you lean into them on purpose. Avoiding those kind of things and avoiding doing that is also a big part of ensuring that my mental health and my physical health is on track. And of course, not every day is a good day. Not every day can be a perfect day. And there are days where I do have to deal with the nightmare of being depressed and being in pain, or having severe anxiety and being in pain. And those days suck. And those days are very much, I just take every step one step at a time. We're not even worrying about projects that day. We're just worrying about what are we doing for the next 5 minutes and not losing our mind is basically how I deal with those days. But avoiding those days as much as I can altogether is really what helps me to continue to move forward and being able to be as productive and successful as I possibly can be. And that's the last little tidbit of it, honestly, has been also redefining what I consider to be a priority and what I consider to be productive and what I consider to be success. And having to slow down, having to reprioritize, such as making sleep important is a big one. Hate it, but we're working on it. And also really lowering my expectations on what it means to be productive and what it means to be successful has also really helped me with being better to my mental and physical health. Now, I know that sounds like the opposite of what a lot of people will tell you is don't lower your expectations. Being productive and being successful are important, and they are. However, mine have been notoriously way too high. I honestly expect way too much of myself. In fact, y'all, I've said this in my prior videos and I'll say it again. I am 34 years old and I have not written, I have published 30 books. Let that sink in for a second. I think that speaks for itself on that your girl needs to calm down with what she considers productive and success, because that is crazy. And while it's impressive, and I'm proud of it, it's incredibly toxic. I have done way too much in a very short amount of time, and I'm paying the price for it now, both physically and mentally. So slowing down and being like, you know what? We don't have to publish 5 books in 1 year. It'll be okay. Telling myself things like that. We can publish 1 book a year. You know what? Maybe we don't even have to publish a book this year, as much as that just destroys me inside in terms of, oh my god, we have to do all the things. It's what I'm working on, is that, you know what, we have to lower expectations and make sure that we're balancing our physical and mental health along with our long to-do list and all the things that we want to accomplish on it. So the reason why I put this video out there for y'all is I have been having a lot of people request that I talk about this. I might do videos in the future going into more detail about my experiences, what all of that feels like. I'm not really prepared to do that right now, but I did want to talk a little bit about some of these little details into my daily life, about what this is like, and that it is a real struggle, and that up until recently this year, honestly, I've been pretty good at hiding it. While yes, I do talk about it on Facebook, in person, I've been pretty good at hiding my mobility issues and, for all intents and purposes, appearing to be a normal person walking around and functioning, when in reality there have been days where I've been in absolutely excruciating pain and I'm just really good at hiding it. And unfortunately, my body's breaking down to the point where it's getting harder and harder to hide it, and I'm trying to accept that I don't have to hide it anymore, that it just is what it is. And people can either accept it or I can just not care. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hope it was insightful. I want to thank y'all so much for watching. If you liked it, please be sure to give it a like. And if you're new, subscribe. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.